Yeah. So while we're on that subject, why not talk about lights a bit? A lot of people have been asking like why we can't just add lights to the game, and we just said like it's difficult. But maybe you can go more in depth as to like what.
Okay, so first of all, you talked a little bit about the optimization, the like budget or like the performance budget, what you call it.
Yeah.
And like there is another thing to that is worth keeping in mind is that we don't know exactly where the game will end up. So exactly what we are required in the end to render and what that will require in other aspects, we don't really know. Like for example, right now we can build huge factories. We actually run into the limit of the engine, how many objects we can have in a scene. And that takes time to process. And what will happen with that? What will happen? What kind of new structures will we have? What kind of, I don't know. It's like there's so many things that can change the final part. What will we need for story things? Will we need something for? It's hard to say. So we need to always keep a little bit of budget so we don't have to step down things later because of new requirements that are actually needed for like a core feature in the game. But with that in mind. Lighting is very hard because it's so unpredictable and it's not logical for most people to understand why it's demanding. So if it suddenly starts tanking your frame rate, you might not know why by yourself. And we kind of have a responsibility to make that kind of understandable. Like right now, you can't tank the frame rate by just building a lot of structures that are expensive to render, and you can do that because the start of a game and the end game kind of base is a huge difference in performance. It's inevitable, you can't get around that. So we already have that issue, but it's more predictable with meshes. It's less predictable with lights because the cost of lights is not how many you have or how big they are or something like that. It's a combination. It's how many pixels on the frame is processed by light, and for a model, one model covers another model. A light doesn't cover another light. It means that you can see essentially infinite number of lights on the screen at the same time, and that can become an issue. So all these kind of things is things that we can solve and we can work around. Like we can group lights on the distance, like only have one of them on and increase the size, and like do all kind of things that we can do to try to keep lights on and like a lot of them at the same time. And I would love to. It's just that it takes a lot of time in consideration to do it good. And it's like we have a lot of other things to do, so it's always prioritization. Can we do lights now? Can we do this now? It's
It's a really interesting kind of optimization problem, I think.
Yeah.
But it's a big thing, and we don't have enough big things in the game already to solve. Like in both in terms of like networking and like all the other things in the game. So yeah, and like some people's computers might handle them just fine until they reach the end game and they have a really expensive base, and it's I understand the frustration from some people. Like they have a really strong PC, they have good frame rate, and they just want lights. But that's not the case for every player, and that's another thing that we have to consider. Everybody, like we can't just consider the people that have high-end PCs. Like we have a responsibility to make sure that the game kind of runs for everybody.
We can work on those like more exclusive stuff for the people who actually, just a few people who can use it later potentially. But most of the time you want to work on the things that give most bang for the buck for most people. Like it's
So update for his lights. All right, cool, confirmed. All right, fantastic.